Brothers and sisters and friends, I am grateful as we conclude this year of 2025 to just reflect momentarily on the story of Ebeneezer Scrooge, which is a fantastic story by Charles Dickens and is written in the context of when Charles Dickens was living in London and was conscious of the great deprivation and great difficulties faced by the poor and the great benefits faced by the rich. And more particularly, I suppose, this idea of how we live our lives. It is in many ways a religious story, or certainly a spiritual story, and focused on the need for transformation, the need for change, the need for utter, total, complete change. The contrast between the old Scrooge and the new Scrooge is phenomenal. I think a lot of us, we get fixated on the old Scrooge, probably because most of the story focuses on the mistakes that Scrooge is making, on the errors of his life, on the risk that his eternal salvation, his eternal welfare will be lost because of the way he chooses to live. But at the end, of course, he changes, and changes in a remarkable way, and we tend to forget that until we read the book or watch one of the movies, one of the many movies written that reflect the written word. So I wanted to just talk for a few minutes about the key contrast, the change, the transformation, the alteration in Scrooge's nature. And I think it's a wonderful time to talk about that, the very last day of the year, as we move into a new year, as we give birth to a new opportunity, a new realization of what we can achieve. In this story of Scrooge, we see his life, we see his death, and we see his rebirth. It's a form of rejuvenation. It's a form of renewal. It's a form of regeneration of the inner man, the inside man. He's touched by the spirit of Christmas. We know that Jacob Marley, the ghost of Jacob Marley, visits him and tells him that living with regret, living with wasted opportunities, is a form of hell. That really is what hell is to live in a situation where you want to help, but you can't. And so he encourages him to avoid that fate and tells him that three spirits will come to him and to teach him, to showcase to him what needs to happen, what needs to change. And Scrooge experiences a shift in his thinking, a change in perspective. His perception is altered because of the experiences with the four spirits, the four ghosts. And they come to him in one night. He doesn't get any sleep or much sleep because the spirits come to him in a condensed fashion. But he learns so much during that time, and he has so much to experience. It's almost as if he experiences a lifetime in one night, one period of 8 hours, where his life really is transformed for the better. It's not inexorable that Scrooge changes. It's not inevitable, but he chooses to change. And that's such a message of hope. There are 6 things that I'd like to just mention. That the contrast between the old Scrooge and the new Scrooge is phenomenal. He goes from being a very old and cold sort of a person to being young and warm. He goes from being, his surroundings are cold. He has lots of wealth and prosperity, but he doesn't use it. He hoards it. He's a miser, and he's stingy, and he's greedy and selfish and self-centered. And so his surroundings are a reflection of his mindset, which is to keep everything curtailed and limited. And so he acts like an old person in the beginning. At the end, he acts like a young person, like a school child. He's giddy, he's excited. So what a change that is, to go from being an old, cold miser to be a young and feeling warm and feeling affectionate and feeling generous. That's a fundamental shift in the way he sees his life. We know that he meets those other 3 spirits, the ghost of Christmas past, his past, that helps him to reflect on where he's come from, giving him context to his life and why he's made the choices he's had and why he is the way he is, and helps him to reflect on his life and to gain some insight into why he has chosen the way he's chosen and the mistakes he's made and the errors and perhaps some of the good things he's done, but mainly the errors, so he can try to remedy that. And mostly through the story, he doesn't really understand that there's going to be an opportunity for remedy. So that's part of the tension, that we think he might be doomed, he might be lost, that this might be inevitable. But thankfully, there's hope. He goes on to meet the Spirit of Christmas Past, who teaches him about the importance of abundance, about generosity, about sharing, about wealth. And real wealth, not just the material wealth, but the wealth of opportunity, the wealth of experience, the wealth of relationship, the wealth of love and caring and sharing and engagement. Enjoying the now, living in the moment, doing good, doing as much good as you possibly can, with all the people you can. And then, of course, he goes on to see the ghost of Christmas yet to come, the ghost of Christmas future, who shows him his impending death as if he dies. And to my mind, I think about that we effectively see Scrooge's death, the death of the old man. And he's able to see how people aren't really, they're not sad about his death. In fact, some of them are happy because they stand to gain from his death. Those who owe him money no longer owe him money. Those who take his goods use it to prosper. And they show no warmth or affection for his life, for his name, for his reputation. They just view him negatively. And so he sees no compassion associated with his life, whereas on the other hand, he sees a lot of depth and love and concern and regard for Tiny Tim and Tiny Tim's family. And so he sees that contrast between having things and having love, having people. And I don't think the message of the movie or the story is that these things are mutually exclusive necessarily, but that a focus on one to the exclusion of the other is dangerous and is very bad for Scrooge and very bad for us. He goes on to realize that he can change and that this was shown to him as a way of helping him to escape the inevitable fate that would have happened if he hadn't changed. And he goes on to change fundamentally. And when he realizes that this was a vision to wake him up, to give him a new life, to give him a form of rebirth, that the old man, the stingy, cold, contemptuous, disdainful man would die and the new man will be born again. He is thrilled, he is overjoyed, he is generous. We go on to see that his poor relationships are replaced by rich relationships. And it's interesting because the people in his life are the same people before and after. His nephew and his employee and all the other people that he knows are the same people, but his relationship with them changes. His connection with them, his treatment of them alters fundamentally. We go on to see clearly that his shift from being money-focused to being people-focused is dramatic. He's focused, before the change, before the intervention, he's focused very much on acquiring money, acquiring assets, but not really using it for much benefit. But then he goes in the direction of focusing on people and how he can buy things for people and help his employee with his expenses and buy people gifts and things like that. So he becomes people focused rather than money focused. The money becomes an object. He has the same money after he's a changed man, but what he uses it for is entirely different. He goes from being very miserable, very inward looking, very like he's in a shell, like an oyster in a shell, like a contrived, small, narrow, tunnel vision life, to being a happy person. Instead of being miserable, he's ebullient, he's munificent, he's abundant, and he becomes happy. His burdens are gone, his chains are loosed, his debt is paid, if you like, his life is made new. He goes from being lonely and from not really caring about people and not being invested in people, being a loner and being alone and isolated, to being engaged, to being involved with family and friends and acquaintances and people. He goes to being a lover of people, a lover of life. He also goes then from wasting his opportunities, from being blind to possibility, any other possibility than money. He just sees making money, but he's blind to the possibilities for love, for life, for laughter, for music, for song, for love, for hope. He goes from wasting opportunities to seizing opportunities, to grasping life, to seizing the day. Carpe diem, as we would say. And many other things could be said, but essentially he goes from being the miser, the disdainful, angry, selfish, hurt child, to being a munificent, happy, joyful, generous, ebullient person. This is a spiritual transformation. This isn't just a shift in mental outlook, because the story does have religious themes of how the Saviour, Jesus Christ, was born to heal men, to heal them from being blind, to heal them from being deaf, to heal them from being lame. And that's essentially what happens to Scrooge. It's the spirit of Christmas, but really the spirit of Christ, that changes him internally, not just as a facade, not just temporarily, but we go on to learn that he was a good old man as the good old city ever had, and that he kept Christmas. He was true to his word. He kept it with ebullience. He had that spiritual vision and determination to do what needed to be done. And even though other people might have thought he was crazy or lost his mind or wondered what had happened to him, they couldn't quite grasp, they couldn't quite understand the nature of this spiritual experience, the nature of this revelatory experience where he gained insight into his own life, into the nature of the world around them, into the community of people. And I think this is a profoundly important message. It's a preparatory message. It's a message given to us in prologue to the deep, deep message of Jesus Christ, the transformation, the full transformation that happens to us through Christ. And this story of A Christmas Carol is a preparation to that. It is a Christ-centered message, the message that we can escape the chains of sin and the bondage of death and become born again into a newness of life. Even in this world, even in this fallen celestial world, we can be born again. We can be born anew. We can be made something different from what we are. And that's the message of hope that I find resonates so much in A Christmas Carol. That's why there are so many film versions of that story, and told in so many different ways, told in such interesting ways and compelling and dynamic and intelligent ways, and forceful ways that cause us to reflect. And I don't have any year where I go not watching Scrooge. I always watch Scrooge every year. Every Christmas I watch one of the films about Scrooge. And I just finished reading the book yesterday. And how marvelously impressed I am that our life is one of opportunity, that this year that's about to happen is a year of opportunity. It's a year of privilege. It's a year of open doors and open windows. It's a year of relationships, and a year for us to do something new, to be something new, to be better, to be wiser, to be happier, to be kinder, to be more compassionate, have more empathy, look around us, to serve, to bless, to heal, to teach, to lead, to guide. That's the change from being contracted, from being small, from being stingy, to being full of life, full of love, full of hope. It's a change that is showcased to us so much in the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm so grateful for these principles. As we come to the end of this year, I hope that each of us will continue to change. We may not be like Ebeneezer Scrooge fully, but I suppose at times in our lives we have all been a little bit like Ebeneezer Scrooge. We've all been selfish, greedy, jealous, small-minded, fixated on the things of a moment. But we change. Hopefully we change. Hopefully we grow up and we gain a new vantage point. We reflect, we think, we learn, we observe. We allow ourselves to be touched by feelings and emotions, by spiritual things that shift us. And as we do that, we become new. It's my experience that we can become new, and 2026 will give us that opportunity to be new, to be better than what we are. I hope that we will learn the lessons that this story has to tell us, and to become the new and the better and the brighter and the happier version of ourselves. And by doing that, not only will our lives change, but the whole world will change. All of our relationships, all the people we impact, even in many unseen, unforeseen ways, will be impacted for positive, in a positive, constructive, optimistic way. Our power is to change the world with the ripple effects of goodness and light and love and beauty and hope. If we open up our hearts and our minds to love, to beauty, to truth, to wisdom, to generosity, to faith, to courage, to kindness, we will be richly, richly blessed. I declare that that's the truth. I testify of Jesus Christ. I testify that he is the pinnacle of our faith, that he is the master of our transformation. He is the author of our change. He is the great spirit, the spirit of Christmas. He is the personage of Christmas. He is our Saviour and living Messiah, and he can help us to change. His nature is one that brings out the best and the brightest and the most beautiful and the most noble in us. So I pray that 2026 will be a year of transformation, will be a year of improvement, a year of development, a year of growth, a year of hope. I know these things to be true, and not just true, but also beautiful. I wish you and yours a wonderful, happy, successful, prosperous, joyous new year. May you be blessed. May you be prospered. May you be loved. May you love. Have a wonderful 2026.